Hi, everybody. Welcome along to episode 81 of Percussion Discussion. As always, please check out our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, our world famous YouTube channel where you can find all of our interviews. You can hear and see us on there. Please subscribe if you get the chance. It only takes a couple of seconds. It helps us immeasurably. So if you could, really appreciate it. This way you won't miss any of the upcoming great interviews that we've got. If you prefer to listen on the go, then you can find all of our conversations in podcast form. And these are free to download on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So if that's your thing, you know what to do. Please leave us a review. It takes a couple of seconds, just a couple of kind words would be very much appreciated. Now then, on to today's guest, a name that might not be too familiar with many drummers out there, a guy who had a huge chunk of his successful career in the 80s and early 90s. Anybody who knows me knows I have a mild obsession and fascination with Live Aid, and anyone who's associated with it. And this guy is associated with it. He played through the 80s, for a long stretch of the 80s, for the genius that is Nick Kershaw, including a Live Aid performance. He also then went on to play for All About Eve, and then did some years with Amitri as well. So pretty good pedigree there, I'm sure you'll agree. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome the fabulous Mr. Mark Price.
Oh, that's my pleasure, Matty. My pleasure.
Well, I appreciate you giving your time up, especially on a Friday evening when there's plenty of other things you could be doing there out in the pub or whatever. Who knows? Playing those guitars behind you on the wall, if they're yours, of course.
Oh, yeah. That's, yeah.
Good stuff. Now, you know, yours maybe, and I mean this respectfully, to some of the younger drummers, maybe a name that they perhaps might not recognize, you know. But that we're going to put that right today, and we're going to let them know exactly what you've done over the last, I don't know, I'm guessing 40 years. It's something along those lines, 30 or 40 years at least.
Yeah. I mean, starting from about 1980, beginning of 84. Yeah. I mean, not so much in the last, 10 years maybe, but you know, it's I did a lot in the 80s and 90s. Put it that way. Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning. Where did music kind of catch fire for you, Mark? Where did it all start?
It all started in Nelson, Lancashire, where I was born. And my mates had guitars, and I wanted to desperately be in the scene, if you know what I mean. But guitar looked a bit hard, you know what I mean? And they needed a drummer. So I just kind of played somebody else's kit one time who couldn't be there, got the bug. I think the first thing I ever played was Jailhouse Rock, probably just hitting everything at the same time. But to me, that was just the best thing ever, you know, and that's where it started. We were very into early Status Quo, that kind of thing. John Coghlan was a massive influence on me. And we just played like, you know, schoolmates in a band, and that's where it all started. We got in working men's clubs up north very early. I was playing there at 15 years old, you know, doing covers, obviously. It was all great fun, you know. We just loved it.
Yeah.
That's where it all started.
Of course, every drummer watching this will totally get what you're saying there. You know, it's just that first time playing and then going out.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to so look forward to gigs when I was a teenager. It'd be so exciting, you know. Not so much now, but then definitely. No, I totally get that. And then so obviously you were out gigging about, and you say social clubs, a great grounding for a band or any music
clubs. I mean, really northern ones, you know what I mean? The concert sec and everything, you know. And I can remember once our first band, we were called Exodus, but then we split up and then reformed. So we called ourselves Exodus 2. You know, because we're very influenced by prog and everything as well.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember the concert secretary at one place going, "And now for your entertainment and dancing, Exodus 2."
Oh, dear me.
You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, that's my first band.
But hey, what a training ground it really is. You know, if you can survive a working men's club, you can survive anything, I think.
Yeah.
But
and then I became a resident drummer at one club with just me and Jack on the organ, and we used to back all the turns that came down. And you know, you could have an opera singer and then a kind of a duo and then a guitar vocal, and you know, it was brilliant. Jack got more drunk as the night went on.
Yeah.
You know, and he was reading the dots. I couldn't read dots. You know, the opera singer gave me dots, and I just looked at them and thought, well, I don't know what to do with that. I mean, I've never heard of Blaze Away. You know, man, what do you do to that? You know, so I did something, God knows what, but
well, a few simple 12 here and there, and that'll do.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happened then? I mean, education-wise, did you take a formal music education as well as your, you know, your?
No. I went to art college.
Oh, okay.
And I got a degree in the end in graphic design. But music was always my love. You know, I was desperate to be in a band. I've been in bands with my mates. I moved to London, like I said before, to try and get a job in an advertising agency. And my heart wasn't in it. So I joined a band, and me and my mates were just in there. You know, it took about 3 years, to be honest, signing on, you know, and going to auditions, because the first band I was in, we tried to get a deal, didn't happen, that sort of thing. Went to auditioned for AC/DC, but I was only about 9 stone, and I looked about 11, you know, so it just didn't really work, you know.
Would this have been the AC/DC audition that Simon Wright got eventually?
I'm not sure what his name was. It was one that it was about 1981 or 2.
Yes,
something like that. And I can remember going down to Nomi's studios.
Yeah.
And none of the band were there. It was just the crew.
Was it his Welsh drum tech? The Welsh drum tech, was it him?
To be honest, I don't know, but I saw the Sona kit.
Yeah,
it was his kit.
Yeah,
and I got behind, and what they made us do was you know, I'd heard Black Dog,
yes,
obviously, but playing it to a cassette is a different thing, you know, if you can understand that. All there's 3 different bits in it that you have to know.
Yes.
You know, the different sections. And I knew kind of what it went like, but to try and play that to a cassette without ever having played it before, it was just a disaster, you know. But I had a go, and then they played another song, which was a bit easier, but you know, I knew it wasn't to be. Yeah. But just to be there was brilliant. Playing, you know, that Sona kit was it's great. You know, the wood one. I've seen it in pictures.
Yeah.
You know, with the 2 toms on the.
Well, it's funny. Simon Wright, the guy who got the gig, who's also been on here. He told a similar story, and it said, you know, about Drummer wanted Must Hit Hard, and he told me about Black Dog as well, and got the call back the next day. So really interesting to hear your side of it as well. So that's brilliant. Yeah. I love hearing stuff like that. So
well, he looked like more like the right kind of thing. I wasn't ready for AC/DC. I'd go to anything to try and be in them. But you know, I can remember sending, you know, Melody Maker was a big thing for me. Answering at classifieds. That's how you got the gigs in those days, in a way. It wasn't word of mouth, it was that. And Jethro Tull were put an ad in. It was when I don't know, Barrymore Balla must have left or something.
Oh, I didn't know.
But I didn't know how good you had to be in Jethro Tull. You know what I mean? I was nowhere near good enough. But I sent a cassette, and I got a reply a couple of weeks later or something saying, "Oh, sorry, but the drum throne has been taken by someone else, thanks for your cassette. And I thought, oh, that's fair enough. You know what I mean? That's, but I thank God I didn't get it. I was nowhere near good enough to be in Jethro Tull.
Well, you've got to be in these things to win it, haven't you? That's the way it is. And it's all part of your story, isn't it? Which I love. I think it's great. So
yeah.
And then obviously, I have to mention Nick Kershaw. How long did that how long was it before that came around, after all the things you're talking about now?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I went to loads of auditions and had a band and stuff. And from about 1980 till 83.
Yeah.
At the end of 1983, about December time, I went to an audition. Another Melody Maker classified ad. Went down. The band were called Downbeat, and it was was it Alaska or Arctic? Anyway, somewhere down South London way. Rehearsal studio, and I played with them, and the manager was there as well, sitting in, listening. They're trying to get a drummer, obviously, and so I played with them, got on well, played well, sounded good, and then I got offered the job, not on the spot, but by phone, just before Christmas. They said they're having a break at Christmas, bring me back in January, and then we'll get the gig sorted out. And I think they wanted to do a little tour,
Yeah.
So I did that. When I went back up to Burnley, mum and dad's for Christmas, came back. I was only like 20, how old would be, 20, 23 at the time. Yeah. And I rang the manager up, who turned out to be Mickey Modern, who was Nick Kershaw's manager. And but I didn't know that. And he said, I've been thinking about this gig, and I think that you'd probably be better suited for another act of mine who's coming up. He's got an album recorded and about to come out. Would you be interested in that? The thing is, I'd heard I Won't Let the Sun Go Down.
Yeah.
I think it had been released once, but didn't do it. And I'd heard it and thought, oh, that sounds better than Downbeat, you know what I mean? So I thought, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll do that. And really, so Mickey was putting a band together to promote Nick's first album, which he'd already recorded with a bunch of session men, and Charlie Morgan on drums, Peter Collins producing. So the first week of rehearsals, I suppose, was like an audition. Really, I didn't audition for Nick.
Yeah.
It, really, apart from that first week, if we didn't cut it, then it would have been see you later.
Of course.
So we started rehearsing, and the whole band hadn't been found yet. So the keyboard player was not Tim yet, Tim Moore, who was the main man in the end. I had my mate on guitar and keyboards, who Keith Airy was the guy in the end. Things didn't work out for a couple of guys. Dennis Smith was a bass player who come in from Secret Affair that Mickey knew. He did work out. So me and Dennis were the rhythm section. Then Tim just walked in with a Moog under his arm. It wasn't even a case or anything. I don't know where he'd come from. Must have heard about the fact that somebody needed a keyboard player, and he came in and played. And so I thought, oh yeah, because the other guy really wasn't happening. So Tim got the gig, and then it was like relentlessly trying to find this guitarist keyboard player.
Yeah.
My mate didn't get it because his keyboards let him down.
Right.
Keith came in, but he was absolutely brilliant. He's Keith Airy, Don Airy's brother.
Yes, indeed.
Been in a million bands. He can play anything. And that became the band then. That for the first lineup.
Yeah.
And we had a small club tour booked actually.
Yeah.
But then Wouldn't It Be Good came out and went, really big, really quickly. So they scrapped the club day. So one club gig in London became 4 Hammersmith Odeons.
Wow.
You know what I mean? As quick as that, you know,
Yeah.
and the rest of the British tour was the different cities equivalent to Hammersmith Odeon, you know,
Apollo's
Edinburgh Playhouse and all that stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it just went from nothing to huge.
Yeah.
You know, with the response and the you know it was like we had to be really loud to just get over the noise.
Yeah.
You know,
almost almost Beatles-esque in some respects.
It really was like that. Yeah. You know, you have to have St. John's ambulance dragging people out and stuff. I mean, that's not a, you know, it's just that's how it was. You know what I mean? Like that, it was hysteria, and brilliant for a young band. You know, and playing Nick's stuff was just brilliant. That first album, all his albums are great, but that first album, when I was practicing to it and learning it, it was just, I thought, well, there's nobody like this at all.
No.
You know, and the drum parts were tricky in places to get the right feel, you know, but, you know, it got harder and harder as the albums went on in a way, you know, but the first album was definitely playable, and I loved playing along, you know, with click tracks and bass sequences like on Cloak and Dagger, and you know, I mean, I love playing along to stuff like that, and locking in. Dancing Girls is another one. It was just a brilliant time. We were just a few young guys having a brilliant time. Nick was just flying. He'd come out, you know, he was a very shy guy, you know, but when, you know, as soon as he was on stage with everything going so well, you know what I mean? He thrived on it.
I mean, I truly believe that Nick Kershaw is a genius. I really do. Some of the songs he's written over the years are just phenomenal.
I think genius is a word that I would use. If you'd asked me one word to describe Nick, I would have used the same word, because his musicality and his way of changing, you know, from going from one section to the next, and always, you know, the way he programmed keyboards as well. You know, what you hear on the record is maybe Wicks doing it, you know, on a Fairlight. But you listen to the demo, it's the same. You know, but on a you know, just on a Porter studio. But he's programmed it. So it's like said to Wicks, do this properly, will you? You know what I mean? Or Peter Collins would have, or something, you know. And it's absolute genius. And I mean, I couldn't believe my luck, to be honest, to have to be in such a good thing that was so well received. And, you know, we're on the telly all the time and traveling all over the world, and, you know, it was brilliant. And, you know, I can't say enough good things about it, to be honest.
It must have been so exciting, because, you know, you know, it's what, 23, 24, maybe 25, young guys going out, seeing and doing all this, playing great songs. Doesn't get any better, does it? I don't think.
They don't really, no. It was absolutely brilliant. And it just went on. The first album, we went and promoted that in Europe and Britain, you know, big British tour, then a big European tour. But then he needed to write another album because the pressure was on, you know, record company. And I can remember listening, you know, walking around, and Nick would be, as we're traveling around in say Germany on places, he'd be going, you know, he's obviously writing. You know, I can remember him doing that. I think afterwards, I'm thinking he was writing Roses then.
Wow.
You know that song Roses?
Yes, I do.
You know, it's a brilliant thing. And so he was having to write the Riddle album while we were on tour,
Wow.
playing the first album.
So
the
difficult second album wasn't a difficult second album. It was brilliant again, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a bit difficult for me, to be honest, because what happened was Mickey wanted me to play on the album because we were but Peter Collins didn't.
Right.
It was obvious.
Yeah.
He didn't. What happened? He wanted Charlie again. He wanted security, tightness, sound, ability. You know what I mean? All the things that he had. He didn't want to produce an album with an unknown, to him. And what happened was, Psalm East was the place down in East London.
Yeah.
And I went down there thinking, great, I'm going to start, doing the second album. But so he was a stickler for being on the click, and we played first song. I can't remember what it was, but we played it, and I'd been practicing for a good week. Mickey had put me in Easy Hire in North London on my own for a week to play along to the cassette of the demos, so I knew what I was doing, and but I wasn't Charlie Morgan and to Peter Collins, and he nearly destroyed me, to be honest. The first song, it was like we put it down, and Julian Mendelssohn was the engineer, and I went in, I thought that went well, and Julian Mendelssohn was all thumbs up, and then Peter Collins said, "Hear that bass drum there? Yeah, it's a bit off the click." Something that you could very easily put right now, but back then you had to get it right from beginning to end. Unless it was a drop-inable section with no cymbals or anything, but he didn't want to try. So I said, let's move on. So I thought, oh God, well, there's one gone, and then the same sort of thing, he'd only given me one try in each song.
His mind was made up, wasn't it, already?
It's made up. And by the fourth or fifth song, I couldn't even tell him what my name was. Never mind, play the drums, and I went on very, very, very disappointed and despondent, but I got over it and realised that, I was very, very young. It sounded great, the album. I was still the live drummer.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on tour, I'm going to play it, and I'll copy Charlie, and that's, thank God, you know what I mean? It didn't all go pear-shaped. And off we went, and went from strength to strength. I got onto the third album where Nick produced, but he wanted every big name he could get on that album. It's like, it's just getting harder and harder to emulate. I'm still the live drummer, but you've got Simon Phillips, Mark Brzezicki, who else? God, a lot of program stuff as well.
Of course.
So, I was still having to emulate people. Luckily, we did have to. I forgot to say about, Gary Wallace had come into the band in between those two albums. We did the first album as what was it, Tim Dennis, as a 5-piece.
Yeah.
Nick wanted percussionist or something, Nick, and then Gary came in. We'd known him. He was in the Style Council, and we kind of nicked him. Well, not we, the management, did. And so Gary came in, and sorry, I forgot what I was saying now. What was I saying that for?
You're saying in between the first and second albums, or second and
third
album, sorry.
Yeah. Things start to get harder. That's it.
That's it.
And so the Simon Phillips one, there's one called "Don't Let Me Out of My Cage," which is a real fast thing. You know what I mean? It's a bit tricky. So me and Gary, we split it between us.
Yeah.
He was doing the and I was like over this. So but it sounded really good.
Yeah.
But it was getting harder. Mark Brzezicki's parts, you know, his first time there's a song called Life's a Bitch and Then You Die, Laberted. You know, wherein, you know, the bridge bit into the chorus was a double paradiddle between two hi-hats, you know.
Okay.
Things like that, you know.
Not your standard pop fare.
No, not really. To click as well every night, you know. So it was, I don't know. When I think back, you know, I kind of get butterflies thinking about, my God, how did you do that? You know, every night. I mean, not, you know, be scared to death, but
wow,
I kind of managed it. You know what I mean? And it was, if you weren't good enough, Nick wouldn't, you know, he wouldn't be keen. Yeah, so it was, you know, we were a really, really good band. We got it together. We emulated what we could. Yeah. You know, and you know, I can remember Mark Brzezicki coming to a gig and saying, "Oh God, you got that and you did that." You know, the bits that he did. You know what I mean? I was made sure and practiced so much, you know, to get it right. Yeah. And you know, I mean, that is the key, just to keep, you know, practicing, isn't it? You know, and do as much as you can. And you know, but I've never been a big rudiments guy, to be honest. I think that double paradiddle sort of thing between the two hi-hats is probably one of the only ones I could think of I've ever played in a song. You know what I mean? Apart from, I think there's a 7-stroke roll at the beginning of the riddle. Yeah, yeah. You know, the military thing, but I didn't even know it was a 7-stroke roll. You know what I mean? Of course. I just heard it and thought it just, you know, and emulated it, you know. So, yeah. But Nick Kershaw, yeah, what a guy. Genius. Thank you, Nick. You know, you were brilliant.
Now anybody, yeah, of course. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm an obsessive about Live Aid, and it epitomizes the 80s. Yeah. Great music, great bands. Interesting sort of looks going on with all the mullets and everything. But Live Aid is the thing that's responsible for me picking up drumsticks. So it means an awful lot to me. And well, I've already spoken. I've spoke to Steve White, obviously, who was on with Style Council. I spoke to Charlie, who was with Elton that day. And I've spoken to Kenny Jones, who was with The Who that day. So you're my fourth encounter with a Live Aid drummer, so I'm thrilled. So talk us through that, because that must have been the quickest 20 minutes of your life.
Well, to be honest, Matty, it was absolutely brilliant and great to be there, but I was so glad once I'd come off and I hadn't messed up. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done. You know, it was, I mean, I've written a few notes here to have a look down. I mean, there were various things, like I can remember we were all so hyped up, you know what I mean? And I don't know if you saw that drama about Live Aid. Yes, I did. Where somebody played Bob Geldof. I can't remember who it was. Yeah. I saw that and I was very interested, because it put across the whole revolving stage thing and the technical issues and everything. And I can remember being at the side of the stage. I mean, I was, you know, you can see the whole of Wembley there, and it's a big, massive affair. And this stagehand said to me, okay, when I tell you to go on, you know, he was trying to tell me what to do. Yeah. But I just heard go on. I started to run on. And he grabbed me and said, no, when I tell you to go on. You know? So, you know, and that thing of like feeling kind of almost sick because you're so nervous. It was, but then we get on there, and what else? Oh yeah, I mean, I had a few things that were which were definitely worrying, because my headphone amp had blown up, so it just didn't work. So they got another one in for the click tracks.
Yeah.
Got 3 of the tracks were all to click.
Yeah.
And we hadn't had a chance to fiddle with it and set a volume.
Oh God.
So yeah, so you know, I had a count in, always had a count in at 2 bars. Listen to the first bar, count in the second bar.
Yeah, one for you, one for the band. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it started, you know, the first thing, and I was thinking, you know, I had it there thinking, right, I'm ready to either turn it down or turn it up, or I didn't know what was going to be the deal.
Yeah.
Luckily, thank God, it was just right. Can you believe the luck of that?
Oh.
And you know, it's so off we go, and just getting through the whole thing without making any mistakes. And like the riddle intro, you know, I've got to go round that section, a 2-bar section, 6 times.
Yeah.
Now you might think that's easy, you know, just count 6 times, you know, but when you get to 4, you're thinking,
is that 4?
Was that 4? You know, I started to really think big time, because you've got to be, you know, in time with the sequence for the whole song, the arrangement.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that was a big thing on my own, and, you know, 1.5 billion people watching, you know, so it was like, but I managed to count 6 and got it right. And, but Nick forgot the words for, Wouldn't It Be Good?
Yep.
You know, everybody was nervous, and Nick he did the second verse, and you can see him go. He sings the same as in the first verse, but it's because he's so panicked. He takes it up an octave, you know, and sings a totally different melody. You know what I mean? I was always thinking, oh no, I don't know what the words are. Oh, what am I gonna do?
Because that was the last. That was the last song of the set, wasn't it? Wouldn't It Be Good? I think
it was. Yeah, I don't know whether the order was in the end. There's another bit where a MIDI note must have stuck on.
Oh God!
Like just going. And I can see Keith. I want to watch it. He's like looking around, thinking, "Well, it's not me." You know, and it wouldn't be Tim just playing a note, you know, on the keyboard. So there were issues and things, you know, that were going a bit awry, but no one really noticed, but we did. And then there's Dennis on bass. He's like, because Don Quixote is such a bass sequence thing, he had to play cabasa, just like, I felt real sorry for him, you know what I mean? He was like, you know, just stood there playing this cabasa, you know, but, you know, it was a brilliant time, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world, obviously. It's, you know, I can remember it really well, being picked up by, you know, I lived in Palmer's Green in a semi-detached, just had a room in like a studenty place, you know what I mean? And a limousine comes, you know what I mean, to pick up all the band. But I think it came to me first. You know, you can see like curtains twitching and stuff. What's he doing? Getting into that, you know what I mean?
Love it.
You know, yeah, things like that. Yeah, but what a day. And managed to watch all the other bands. I can remember talking to Andy Newmark.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
As I was checking my drums backstage, he was checking his. Little did he know, you know, everything was going to go right for me, but not for him, because his tom skin when he got on, you know what I mean? And, you know, his rack tom, you know, just imagine that.
No.
You know, it's not good, is it?
No.
But he was ever such a nice guy, a big hero. I'm a huge Roxy Music fan.
Same.
You know, and just to talk to him, you know, as a drummer to drummer was really good, you know.
But that day, you know, it's funny. I mean, I would have been, oh gosh, how old was I? 85. I'd have been 11, I think. And I remember watching it, just mesmerized. And I'm watching it thinking, every one of these musicians lives in a mansion, and they've been helicoptered it or you limoed in, and you've just said you know, living in a basically student housing, and I've got it in my head. Yeah, you know, it's all there, it's done. And isn't it strange, you know? And
Yeah, I know, yeah, and you know, and I went back to that night, you know.
What a come down.
Yeah, I remember watching the news. I mean, when the place was like pretty studenty, swirly carpets, and you know, like you know, awful kind of sideboard or something. You know what I mean? And you know, that's the type of thing it was. Yeah, I can remember watching it. It was on the something like, you know, the news after the main news, yeah, like East Midlands Today or whatever, that type of thing. It was like how they were building the stage and everything. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you know, we're going to be doing that tomorrow or something, or the day after. And there I am in this little place, you know. Yeah, what a day.
Well, I remember watching just every band that was in a row. I didn't move. I was on holiday in Butlins, and it was a scorcher of a day, as you'll know. And
yeah,
my parents were pretty peeved. I wouldn't leave the room. I was like, no, I'm watching this. And I remember it was, you had a really good sound, Nick Kershaw. Elton had a terrible sound, but I remember thinking, oh, this sound is really good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, to be honest.
It was very good considering everything. But I remember it was, looking back now, it's so 80s, you know, the mullets and Remo pinstripes on everything on your kit, snare, everything.
On the snare, But I liked the sound of that on the snare. It made it really fat.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, fat was there. It wasn't pingy, and you know, I had that snare for the riddle, you know, the more military sounding to the side. But I liked the fat snare at the time, and it fitted with, you know, Charlie Morgan's sound on the albums was quite fat and dry. Yeah. You know, I was about to say something then, and that's gone as well.
But you've played some of the best songs in the 1980s for my money, because anything Nick Kershaw is usually top class, and we've said it, and hey, amazing. So once Nick Kershaw, you know, once things, I don't know whether you left or whatever happened, you ended.
No, I would never have left. Yeah, to be honest, you know, I would have been mad to leave. But what happened was, we got to 1987. Yeah. Radio Musicola was with the third album. Yes, we toured that around Britain, Europe, and we went to Israel as well. And I think that Israel was the last tour. But then Nick was going to take some time out because sales weren't as good. Mm-hmm. And he needed to have a think about why. And he wanted to go to America, and he did the album The Works over there. But he didn't want, you know, paying a retainer for everybody for a year. Yeah. Or more. You know, he wasn't really on his agenda. He thought he had to finish that, you know, that era.
Start afresh, yeah.
Go off and do that, and then come back. And so it kind of came to an end for me, but not out of my choice, but, you know, because I loved it the whole time. Yeah. It was a sad state of affairs, but I just thought, well, I've got to find something else. So I rang everybody that I knew. Yeah. And one of the guys that I rang was an engineer who I remember I told you I joined a band when I first moved to London called Motives, and we did demos and stuff. Yeah. They didn't get a deal, but the demos, they were an Ipswich band, and he was the engineer in this 8-track studio called Octopus. Mm-hmm. And we went there, and I remembered him because he'd come up in the world as well, and I knew that he was doing in bigger studios as an engineer doing stuff. He was one of the people I rang, and I asked him if he knew of anything that was going, and he said, well, actually, I'm at Ridge Farm, recording this band All About Eve. And they, you know, Mick Brown from The Mission was doing some tracks, but he could only do a couple, and they said, so we're looking for they needed another. Why don't you come down? Yeah. So, you know, it was some word of mouth thing. Really lucky, you know. I made that call, and that was the outcome. And I went down to Ridge Farm and recorded the first album with All That Eve, you know, all the tracks that Mick hadn't done.
Yeah.
And then joined. And then that went massive, you know. And then off I went with All That Eve until 1990.
Amazing.
You know,
but you know,
91 or 2.
Having Nick Kershaw's name under your belt, you know, this is my last gig, Live Aid's there for all to see. That's got to help a little bit, hasn't it? You know, regardless of your talent, sometimes when you've got a name like that.
Yeah, it didn't help that much with All About Eve because they were darker and more gothy and more indie. You know what I mean? So I was a bit of a joke, to be honest, saying, "What is drummer from Dick Kershaw's coming?" You know, sort of thing. I can remember turning up in a. I can remember I had some orange Converse boots on, some tatty old Levi jeans that you get, you know, that you buy that are all knackered anyway, and a Captain Scarlet t-shirt. You know, it really was so All About Eve.
Not gothic in the slightest, you
know, and but you know, got there. Paul Samuel Smith was the producer from the Yardbirds fame. And it was all about music, not about what you were wearing, you know. And so track 1 went in, all went well. Track 2, all went well. 3, blah, blah, blah. Great. Brilliant. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And got on really well. And then we needed a live drummer.
Meant to be.
You know, I thought, well, I'll do it. You know, so off we went, you know, and that went really, really big quite quickly.
Of course.
You know, first album was like number 7, I think, pretty much immediately.
Do you know the thing that always makes me smile though about this, and it's the fact that Martha's Harbour, everyone remembers that. It was the big hit, not a bloody drum on it.
No, that's right. Yeah, thank God. It would have been rubbish with a drum on it.
Well, it would have, but you know, even so,
ruined it.
The one big hit, and I'm not on it.
Yeah. Oh well, you know, I was just pleased that it was a hit. I mean, and they had that big Calamity on Top of the Pops. Remember that?
No, I don't.
Well, that's what made it very bigger than it was. Really, was the fact that we got to about number 10 or something with it, or lower down anyway. And Top of the Pops, you know, it's just mimed, and they have a separate feed, I suppose, in the mixing room of Top of the Pops. One for the studio, for the monitors, one for the telly, and something had gone wrong. So Tim and Julianne are there waiting for the track to start. Ladies and gentlemen, All About Eve, Martha's Harbour, yay! And they just sat there. The track started on the TV, but it wasn't coming out in the studio.
Oh no!
I mean, this is a very famous. You've got to look it up on YouTube.
I will do. First thing I'm going to do.
Yeah, and so it looks like they were like rebelling against something. You know, I say, no, we're on Top of the Pops. We're too kind of
gothic,
you know, something for that, you know, and I'm not going to join in. So, but it wasn't the case. This couldn't hear, nothing was playing.
So as far as you were aware, it hadn't started. There was nothing playing at all.
Nothing playing at all. But on telly, it was halfway through already, and they still hadn't joined in. But then they managed to sort it out. I mean, they've got the stupid A&R man saying to them, "Do it live." You know, but the guitar's not mic'd up.
No.
And the mic doesn't work. You know what I mean? I mean, how stupid is that? And but anyway, it came in eventually. It must have been halfway through the song. And you could see Julianne, she was so fed up, you know, with it all. It was like so embarrassing. But it was big news.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and it made it a big hit. So
I didn't know
and they
that.
were invited back the next week to do it again. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, you know, that's, you know, and we had 8 consecutive top 40 hits, you know. It kind of started to slope off, but, you know, still a big fan base.
Yeah.
Still did good gigs. But that came to the end in about 1992. You know, that was another chapter done. Then I moved on to, I did sessions and stuff. I played with The Cure on Wild Mood Swings.
Right.
I did 3 tracks on that.
Yeah.
Because Robert Smith, Boris Williams left, and we'd supported The Cure, you know, all that Eve once somewhere. I can't remember where, to be honest now. It might have been, where was it? No, I'm thinking of somewhere, but we supported him anyway. He knew of us, and I auditioned. They had a few drummers. He wanted a few drummers on the next album. I was one of them that was asked to go and audition, which I did, and was asked to go down and record. And I ended up doing 4 tracks, 3 tracks on the album. 1 track appeared on a well, you might say B-side, but you know what I mean, an extra track on a EP. I mean, did a lot of things in that period, playing with various people, did programming for people, Sinead O'Connor and Dave Stewart.
Wow.
Did stuff for him, and did a film thing, you know, Fever Pitch, that album, that film about Arsenal. I did the original drums on that. It's mixed with original music, you know, like the Who and all the loads of people, but anything that was, you know, had to be written for the various scenes. I did that. That was with Neil McCall. It was in the Bible, and it was Kirsty McCall's brother. What else? I did all sorts of stuff in that period. You know, my mind's gone blank because there's quite a lot of stuff. But and then Right Said Fred came along. They needed a live drummer. I got that because Tony Perrin was the manager. It used to be All That Eve's manager. Right. So I got a year and a half of touring with them.
That must have been fun.
It was absolutely brilliant. You know, all to click, everything to click, apart from Deeply Dippy. So it's, you know, I love playing to click. I love playing to sequences and percussion stuff, loops, and you know what I mean. It was just great, and they were brilliant guys. I had a great time with them. And then it was Amitri.
Oh, what a band! What a band!
Yeah, great band.
Would you have taken over from what would have been a young Ash Soan then at that point?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, what the way I heard it was that Ash recorded the Another Suckers Parade album.
Great album, yes.
But then I don't know what happened. I don't want to, you know, speculate or say anything negative about anybody. It didn't work out for him being the live drummer for some reason. So I knew John McLaughlin, who I played with Eileen Rose. He was in a band with her. It's all very incestuous, isn't it?
Yes, always is.
Who was the guitarist, the other guitarist in Amitri at the time, and he said, I hear a little bird tells me that they're going to be looking for a drummer. Do you want to go, you know, shall I put your name to go and have an audition? Which I said, yeah, great. So I went up to Glasgow, auditioned, got the job, joined Amitri.
Wow.
So off we went, you know, and straight away, it was a big British tour, and then American tour, big American tour. Then, but you know, it's backwards and forwards, doing lots of Europe, and you know, it was a really great band, good rock band as well. You know,
Justin Curry is another great songwriter, isn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh, his lyrics, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That was really great, and you know, and Chris Dollymore took the place of me and Chris joined at the same time. He did the John McLaughlin job. Yeah. Because John left.
Yes.
he actually died, not long after that. He had, I think, a very, some sort of diabetes thing going on. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, Chris was in The Godfathers, The Damned.
Yeah.
Great, you know, brilliant player, real, you know, played it low down.
Yeah.
Great attitude, loved him, you know what I mean? And me and him, kinda, I think people have said anyway, that we rocked it up to a good level, you know what I mean?
Gave it a kick up the arse, as they say.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't quite so studioified or whatever. And, you know, I knew when to rock out. You know, John Coghlan had taught me when to open your hi-hats. You know, that was a good grounding for me. You know, you'd listen to John Coghlan, he'd be, you know, playing away, open hi-hat, and then be close for the verse, you know what I mean? And then slowly open them into the chorus, you know. That was, you know, he taught me a lot, that guy. And so
I'm guessing with Amitri, there wouldn't have been many, if any, click involved, or clicks, I should say.
No, you're wrong there.
Am I really?
There was some click involved, but not a lot. But as it progressed, and then we did an album. I played on the. It was the Greatest Hits, but we played on a few tracks that were done that were then put on the Greatest Hits. Then a whole album called "Can You Do Me Good," which I did all the drums for. And when we toured that album, there were quite a few songs that had click, and you know, it was a lot more trying to be a bit more modern.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It didn't totally work, I don't think, but yeah. So, but I was so used to playing to clicks. I've done it my whole professional life. And you know, nowadays, if anybody wanted me to play to a loop, you know, without a click, I would be horrified. You know what I mean? You've got to have the click. You know, I never had anything in my. I always had what was on the sequence or whatever you were playing to coming out of my monitors and purely click in one ear, you know, just because you've got to hold on to that click for dear life.
That's your anchor, isn't it?
yeah. And without some, just to play along to a drum loop without a click, you haven't got that anchor, have you? You're straying, but you know, you're thinking, "Oh, so my bass drum on his bass drum then," or you know what I mean? It's like I wouldn't like that at all. There have been times when that has happened when I've played with people. I played with a band called I did one gig with them, and that was enough. Called Renegades Soundwave.
Okay,
it was like an indie thing, and they wanted me to. They had this great loop that they wanted me to play on top of. I don't know what it was. They always robbed it from a great record, maybe Billy Cobham live somewhere or something. You know what I mean? But I only had it in my monitors, and the monitors weren't loud enough. You know, and trying to play. You know, I was playing with, you know, putting my head down like that. No click, and they don't understand, and they were so miserable as well. It was like really hard to work with them. I couldn't bear them, to be honest. And you know, we parted our ways, thank God, just after one gig. But
after going from all these great bands to that, and it's just like, oh dear me.
yeah. I didn't like them. I didn't like them, to be honest. They were too. What do you say? You know, precious. About themselves, like it's almost like, and I don't know. You were just
no time for
somebody
that
to come along, you know. I don't know, but they didn't have it set up right for me to play along to properly. I didn't like that. But
well, look, Mark, we're kind of heading towards the end now. But what are you up to at the moment? Are you still doing a bit? I can see some guitars on the wall behind you. You obviously do a bit of everything.
Yeah, but that's my boy. You know, I've got kids. My boy Isaac, he's a big guitar. He loves guitars. You know, he's like, and I'm teaching him drums. He's 16 now. My boy, I've been married twice. The first child is Joe. He's in Holly Cook. I don't even know. Paul Cook's the drummer from Sex Pistols, Holly Cook reggae artist, and Gentleman's Dub Club. He does with them, and a guy called Maverick Sabre. He plays guitar.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So so Joe's doing all that stuff. He's followed in the footsteps. Yeah. Isaac's got the bug. He's he's really got the bug. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's got to that point where, we tried to get him into guitar lessons earlier when he was, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. Yeah. He just wasn't interested at all. You know what I mean? Couldn't be bothered with it at all. But this second time, it's only been going on just like a year and a half now. It is amazing. It's like he's picked it up so much. He's gonna do something with it. And but now I play in a covers band just locally because I've got a job. Yeah, and stuff. It's kind of all over in the big way.
You've finally grown up and got a grown-up job.
Well, recently, I know, but I had a bit of a thing recently, right out of the blue. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want it to. If anybody sees that might be relevant to think that they were second choice. Yeah. But I've got offered something recently, right out of the blue, which was like around 4 continents for 15 months. But having thought about it a lot, reality kicked in about the fact that I couldn't be away that long anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I didn't know whether I could actually, I'm not a spring chicken either. You know what I mean? But it was a big deal, and I really thought about it, and then decided not to. Then regretted it and asked if it was still going. And then it's all a bit of a nightmare.
That must have been a hard decision to make.
It kind of was, and it was disappointing for them and for me. Yeah, because they wanted me and I wanted to do it, but it's kind of too late in a way for something that big. Yeah, to I'm not saying it was big and like joining U2 or something, but I mean it was very big in the 80s and 90s, and friends of mine, and it didn't work out. Yeah. And because I said, we've had personal things going on in my life with my wife now. She was very, very ill, and got through it though. And it was like, this isn't the right time. You know what I mean? I had to, the thought of doing it was great, but I just had to let it go, and but I've got a covers band. We play pubs and things all around here, and I keep my hand in, and I love playing. In fact, the covers band's one of the hardest gigs I've ever done, because it's like a rock classics, and you go from Van Halen to Basket Case to it's one after the other. It's very, very tiring. You know what I mean? It's like
Well, so I'll tell you what, you've had some career, and I know you're still doing it, and I don't mean to sound disrespectful, obviously.
No.
But we know your massive time was kind of 80s into 90s, and you've played some of the best songs in some of the best venues with some of the best musicians, and it doesn't get any better than that in my book, so we can all aspire to take something from that, I think. So
well, I've had a good time of it, you know what I mean? Some people do it a little bit and then it all ends. Yeah. I got 20 odd years out of it. Yeah. At the proper level for, like a professional would. And, I've been all over the world, everywhere you can go, and played some good things on albums, I hope. Yeah. So I've done well.
You've left quite a legacy behind you, so it's amazing, and I have to say thank you very much, and thank you to our buddy Steve Barney for setting this up as well. Another great drummer. Yeah. So Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Steve. Yeah, he was. I contacted him recently about something to do with that last gig that I was telling you about. You know, still just trying to blag some gear, to be honest. But he that's the Natal connection. But it did. Then I put an end to it, so it didn't matter anymore. But anyway, Steve put me on, and I've never met him.
Have you not?
But he's a lovely guy.
He's a great guy.
Well, look, Matty, thank you for
the pleasure.
So easy.
Pleasure was all mine. Trust me. You've told quite a story, and I know everybody watching or listening, depending how they listen, will enjoy this thoroughly. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we can meet up in person. I can shake your hand and say thank you.
No, thank you, Matty. That's great.
Cheers. Thanks, Mark. Take care, mate.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.